Each of us has our own unique background and story of how we became a part of Chiefs Kingdom.
Our reach is far and wide, with fans all over the world cheering on our Kansas City Chiefs.
Everyone donning the red and gold has figuratively signed that mutual agreement and come together for one common purpose.
For 76,000 of us at a time, to descend upon Arrowhead, man our stations, let out our loudest battle cry to the tune of 142.2 decibels, and make that stadium rock until our opponents beg for mercy.
We are unrelenting in our pride for this city, these players, and this team. This is the show for the Allies, Arrowhead Allies.
Welcome in, everybody, to Arrowhead Allies and the knee hyperextension heard around the world of Travis Kelce. And we're going to get in, maybe not to the specifics, but to knee hyperextensions themselves. What are they? What's the timetable? How serious can they be? And we've got none other than former Chiefs assistant athletic trainer Aaron Borgmann joining us from 2013 to 2018. How's it going, Aaron?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We can't be more excited to have you on, your expertise. And I just want to kind of throw this up. We've got some reports out here that say the intact, but there has been some swelling. James Palmer's kind of suggesting that it could be a 1 to 2 week injury. Just from these reports alone and knowing what you know and your expertise, what do you see with this hyperextension of Travis Kelce?
Yeah, so obviously, I'm not treating Travis, right? So yeah. I can't speak to any specifics, whether I know them or not.
Exactly.
Let's take a step back here and understand that when people talk about things like non-contact injuries, they get really, really freaked out, right? That doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes that can mean it's a good thing. If you have a contact injury with a hyperextension, a lot of times it's worse because you have a force coming into the knee to force it backward, right? And if you have an external force as opposed to just the body weight coming down, a lot of times that can be more than what the knee can handle. So, there's a lot of gray area here, and sometimes we kind of get lost in words and terminology, and that's kind of what I kind of harp on when I get on social media and things like today. I really try to find out, as much as you can, because, we only know part of it. I, of all people, know that. But what the traditional sports media doesn't do a great job of, and hopefully I'm trying to change a little bit, is explaining the hows and the whys of everything happens. Well, so when you have a knee hyperextension, this goes for you, this goes for me, this goes for Travis, what you're doing is basically forcing the knee backwards, right? Yeah. And everybody's so concerned about the damage in the back of the knee, and rightfully so. There's tissues back there where your hamstring connects, where your calf connects, something called your posterior capsule that you have to be worried about. You have to be worried about the ligaments that crisscross on the inside, your ACL and PCL. But what a lot of people forget is if the force is going backwards to bend the knee backwards, then something in the front has to be pushed up against each other. And so a lot of times you get what you call an anterior, or the front side of your knee, bone bruise, where the two bones of your knee, the two main bones, kind of knock together, right? And they hit heads. And that causes actually more of the swelling that we see in these kind of hyperextension injuries, regardless of ligament damage or not. You get that anterior or front-sided bone bruise, usually right behind your kneecap, and that can last for a while. Now, what does that mean? I don't know, because everybody damages that differently, right? And the extent of that. And then you compile that on top of the fact that everybody can play through things differently given their position, given their needs at the position, given are they a really dynamic player or not, what kind of pain tolerance do they have. I think we've seen that this player, and I can firsthand attest to my time in the league with him, this player plays through a lot of things, right? He doesn't miss many games. He's an Iron Man. He's a warrior. And for that, he deserves credit. Now, one of the biggest things that we talked about is the swelling, right? You've seen that in the national reports, and getting the swelling down is the number one issue in these injuries, because until that happens, nothing else can happen, really. You can't strengthen properly. The muscles don't work as well. You don't get your range of motion back. And so that's what keeping that swelling down is one of the biggest things that anybody fights in a hyperextension in the first 24 to 48 hours, let alone in the time period beyond that.
Aaron, we all greatly appreciate you coming here today. We can't thank you enough. You had a chance to treat Travis Kelce his rookie season. He was injured his last preseason game, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was inactive week 1. He took the field in week 2 for the home opener against Dallas, and then he went on injured reserve. Can you touch specifically on what happened to Travis Kelce during that 2-week period of rookie season in 2013?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't talk about specifics, and they're violating all those HIPAA rules and things like that.
Right.
You guys mentioned the fact that he took the field and then was out. I can tell you that injury was very well documented, and I think Travis has even said things publicly in the media that he became a better player because the person that he rehabbed with, who continues to be on staff there at that time, really made him stronger, and he really vouched for the power of rehab. And I think what you'll see is in his history and litany of injuries, he has been a proponent of that process, and he really buys into that process. And so I think that's what makes him unique in the fact that, yeah, he knows it's a gladiator sport. Like, you're going to get dinged up and things like that, but he's going to go through the steps that put him back out on the field as quickly as he can. And he trusts the people that are in place there to do so.
Aaron, as we start to look at this, and Chiefs fans kind of coming up with hypotheticals, and the game's only 2 days away now. Well, right. Well, that's kind of what we do here. I don't know.
Yeah.
We try to deal in reality here, Aaron. But as you're looking at this from the Chiefs' standpoint, and I think Chad Ochocinco had tweeted something like, "Oh yeah, 24 hours. The same thing happened to me. I'm good to go." But you're talking about a game that's 2 days away. If you're the Chiefs, might you just look at this and say, "We'll see. We'll evaluate this over the next day or two," but really, we're going to keep Travis out here because you're not talking about playing another game until 10 days away and going to Jacksonville to do that. So when you're trying to evaluate this, and maybe if you were hypothetically giving advice, would you just call it for this week and try it again in 10 days?
Yeah, so that's a unique aspect that I don't think a lot of people see on the outside, right? We have a lot of people in the sports media now, predicting time frames and will he play, won't he play? I like to kind of dive into it differently and talk about things like, well, okay, so what if he does play, right? We don't know if he's going to play yet or not, but what if he does? Does that set him back for, or does that put him at 60% for another couple of weeks? Whereas if he sits this week, then he's back closer to 80 or 90 for that period of time. We don't know because we don't know the extent of the damage. But that's the stuff that not only the medical staff, but the front office staff and the coaching staff is constantly weighing. How badly do you need him for this game? And this could go for any game and any player, right? How bad, what's the drop off from between him and the backup? If the backup plays and starts, does that person have to be pulled off of special teams? Does that create a ripple effect kind of downstream? Does that weaken the team, 4 levels down? Does that mean a practice squad player that you were planning on bringing up can't come up because they have to bring somebody else up, to fill that backup tight end spot? So, all of these things are the factors that go into the hows and the whys. The medical decision-making is one level, right? But then you've got this kind of ripple effect in the pond, right, that no one seems to think about or want to care about because they're so focused on the injured player. But you have to focus everything into it.
Yeah, what's up, Aaron? Man, so from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like the best bet may be for Travis Kelce, to sit, just to be on the safe side, because we all know that this is a long season, and the Chiefs aren't just playing to win week 1; they want to try to win a Super Bowl. But, with the news that his ACL is intact and things like that, you were talking about rehab. What type of rehab would he be doing in the next, few days in the week leading up possibly to week 2. And is it realistic for us to think that he can be back for, the week 2 game against Jacksonville?
Yeah. So again, not knowing any specifics, the type of rehab that I would personally undertake him in is, obviously you get really that swelling under control early and often. And then, in the professional sports world, we're blessed with having some really cool rehab tools like underwater treadmills and things like that, and anti-gravity treadmills, and something where he can take the weight off of his knee, or any player with a hyperextension, and then you can begin to normalize your gait pattern, right? You can normalize your walking, because until you do that, you can't do anything, right? Get that quad firing correctly, get the muscles kind of pumping some of that swelling out a little bit. That's step 1, 2, and 3 right away, all the while maintaining that the swelling doesn't come back and that you irritate things. Now, all that being said, I can promise you, because I know this medical staff intimately, that they've been working on this since he came off the field and out of the MRI tube. So they are 5 steps ahead of us right now, and we are 5 steps behind. I call it the iceberg theory. Now that I'm in the public, and we are all in the public, we only see about 20% of what actually happens, right? Like all this other stuff that goes beyond the scenes throughout the night tonight. And I can promise you that's happening throughout the night tonight, be it him passively on his own or somebody checking in with him. We have no idea if he's going to make it to this game or not. And that's, kind of secondary in the scheme of things. Everybody wants to talk about the NFL season being a grind, right? Well, it is, obviously. Yeah. But what people don't see is this started in May, right? With heavy, hard-hitting workouts, goes through June with OTAs and mini camps. Camp is a grind, right? And now you've got 17 games, and this team, as well as other teams, are expected to go deep into the playoffs. Again, it's one of those sliding scales that you have to weigh the pros and cons all the way through. And here's the first thing that every medical staff in the NFL does. They determine, is the player safe to play? First and foremost, if he's safe to play, then can the coaching staff run him through what he's supposed to do? Is he capable of playing? Those are 2 different things, right? And then does he look the way they want him to? Is he proficient at it? Or, can he do things that he wants to do well? So, if this is the Super Bowl, who knows? It's a different story. It's week 1. The medical staff will make the best decision for Travis, because they're not going to cross the first barrier. They're not going to put him out there if it's not safe to play, and if it's not going to re-injure him. That kind of stuff is, kind of made up anymore. Like that doesn't happen like it did back in the 60s and 70s and things like that we've heard all these old school stories. That is just not a thing anymore. So I can tell you that they're looking after him. They are doing, they're rushing for Thursday. I can tell you that, but they're also keeping in mind the long term.
Okay.
Well, Aaron, we can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your expertise. Want to make sure everybody knows we got it up here. The website, BorgmannRehabSolutions.com. We got it up there so you can check out everything that you do. And I hope if you're in need, if you have an athlete in need, Travis Kelce or otherwise, to be check out our good friend Aaron here. Thank you for sharing that expertise, Aaron. We really appreciate it, my friend. And we'll see what happens. It's time to get things rolling here, and hope everything is okay health-wise for everyone across the league. We can pray, right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Like he's a warrior, man. Like if he can play, he'll play.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Great insight, man.
Well, great insight indeed. And we're going to try to keep that rolling as we welcome our next guest right onto the show. It is none other than former Detroit Lions starting quarterback, former 11-year starter for the, 11-year backup for the Pittsburgh Steelers behind Ben Roethlisberger, Charlie Batch. Charlie Batch is with us. Charlie, how's it going, my friend? Welcome to the show.
How you doing, fellas?
Hey.
How you doing, Charles?
I'm
it's
doing
great
well.
to have you. He's got the Steelers 16 back there, but if it's okay with you, we might just talk just a little Detroit Lions with you today too.
I got a jersey over there somewhere. I think it's over that direction there. So yeah, there's 10 representing back there.
I don't see any Eastern Michigan, and so I'm a little not sure what to do because Charlie, the first time I ever saw you play here at Mizzou, playing my Missouri Tigers here in 1997, and you put up a lot of points, a lot of fireworks in that game.
Yes, we did. I was going back and forth all game. We had them nervous there for a little bit going into that fourth quarter. But we kept it respectful. But I do remember that game like it was yesterday for sure.
Yeah. So does Brock Olivo, who was the running back for Mizzou. Then I've talked to him about that game. He always talks about Charlie Batch and said, my gosh, we could not stop that guy. And it was the first time that I was like, back then I'm like, can players from small colleges, can they really make it to the NFL and be successful? And here I'm like 12 years old. And to see you then get drafted and to come in and be a starter, it was like, wow, that was the guy. That's the guy I saw play. So
look at you now. You're aging me. You said, hey, I was about 12. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm almost 40. So you're welcome.
But it was fun though. It really was fun playing that game because back then, you didn't see a lot of major quarterbacks actually coming out.
Exactly.
It was almost like proving, yourself that you can play. And at that time, you didn't see a lot of the MAC quarterbacks. And I was drafted in 98. Then it made it easier for the Chad Penningtons, the Byron Leftwiches, and those guys afterward to really come back because they're saying, okay, this guy did have success. So it's like, you're almost, you're a trailblazer to a certain degree, but just kind of see where it's at now. It's not even a question of what college you played at. Can you play? The scouts will come find you and go out and deliver given that opportunity in that National Football League. So it's pretty cool.
And we have Noah here, who a big Chiefs fan, but he's changed his jersey to the 10 Charlie Batch jersey from the Detroit Lions here.
Yes, absolutely. We love Charlie Batch. I mean, followed your career, 99, 2000. Unfortunately, what happened in 2001 with Marty Mornhinweg, but you're there with the Steelers calling preseason, doing some pregame calling for them as well. And I just want to talk to you about someone that you have that I feel should be in Kansas City. And I'm jealous of you guys that you have him. And that's George Pickens. The Chiefs moved down in the draft last year and they take Sky Moore. George Pickens was sitting right there. I was calling for it. Please take him. What have you seen out of George and just how special of a receiver is he for your Steelers?
Yeah, now in fairness, I love Sky Moore. He's a Pittsburgh guy. So I've watched him literally since he was in middle school. So it was really cool to see him. He went to Shady Side Academy here in Pittsburgh and then obviously playing in the Mid-American Conference. How to get to Western Michigan, I have no idea how he skipped over Eastern Michigan. We'll talk about that later. But but it's cool to see him. But to your question, and obviously he got a Super Bowl ring, so that's pretty cool for him. But the George Pickens, I mean, this is a guy that really, a lot of questions coming out only because they have so much talent. It's like how can he really do why he was at Georgia? But the moment he got into Pittsburgh, everybody's like, how did he even fall to us? Because that's how talented this guy is. So kudos to the scouts who are following him in Pittsburgh to bring him into Pittsburgh. And that's something that really, when you look at just the status of the kind of the makeup of the Steelers general managers, even though they don't need receivers, they pick one up in a draft. Yes. And it's always been that way. And George, not a lot of pressure last year, but the plays he was making, everybody's like, this guy is out here killing them with these one-handed catches and acrobatic catches. So it wasn't surprising to us. And it really, when he got onto that kind of national platform last year, that big one-handed catch against the Browns, and everybody's like, whoa, what is this dude doing? We've seen it. And now we expect more. He put over 800 yards in receiving last year. Can he do more? Obviously, that's going to be a lot indicated on or dictated as it relates to what Kenny Pickett does, but based off where he is from year one and what he did in his preseason, George Pickens is going to be a guy that we should follow and maybe a sleeper in somebody's fantasy draft.
Okay. Well, George Pickens definitely made it easy for them to trade Claypool if I'm watching from afar. Mm-hmm. Charlie, we're talking Chiefs Lions. We're Arrowhead allies. We're ready for this big game. I will be there in attendance with Clay Windler from Red Tribe Cinema. If the Detroit Lions are ever going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to believe that they like their chances going in with most likely Chris Jones not playing, most likely Travis Kelce not playing, a dinged up Kadarius Toney. So I like where the Lions are going. I like the new head coach. I think the team's buying in. They remind me of the 1989 Chiefs, which barely missed the playoffs. Then the next year, they finished 11-5 and really set the tone for the decade ahead. What can you tell us about the matchup this Thursday between the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you when it relates to everything that's going on with Detroit. You build off the things that you built that you did last year. It almost it kind of reminds me, because as we get to Thursday Night Football, it kind of brings me back to 18 years ago, back in 2006, whenever we won a Super Bowl 40. We opened up that following season against the Miami Dolphins with Nick Saban at the helm, which most people forget that. And Ben Roethlisberger was out with appendectomy. and I had to start that game. So here I was starting the very first game of Thursday night football at home. And of course, that was a big game. Everybody's following, and you want to put on a show because the rest of the world is watching that particular moment as NFL season started. We ended up winning that game, and it was cool to be a part of and be a part of history. But I think as you kind of look back on what's going on, everybody expects Kansas City to be at the top. That's a no-brainer. Of course, everything that's going on there, Super Bowl champion. But the mystery is the Detroit Lions, because their hype is coming in. Are they kind of, smelling themselves a little bit, reading the press clipping to say, hey, maybe we are a little bit better? They went through a heck of an offseason. Literally, I just left Detroit last weekend, and the city is buzzing about what this Lions team is potentially going to do. As they were practicing, a lot of hype that's coming out. And what better way to prove it on a national platform? Either you're going to be a contender or you're going to be a pretender. This is exactly what it's about. And if they can get it going, man, that city of Detroit, those fans, they deserve a winner. And if Dan Campbell could get this team doing something that not many people think they can do on the road on a Thursday night, that will help set the tone for their season and get them going. If Kansas City loses the game, we're not worried about that. We know they're going to rebound. It's not, nobody, sounding the alarms or anything of that nature. It's just the fact that they can't overlook Detroit in this particular manner, because they did add the pieces, and they don't want to get embarrassed essentially on national TV. And Andy Reid will have those guys ready to go.
No, agreed, man. And I can't wait to talk, more about this game, because, it's going to be such a big game, the opener. But, Charlie, I want to talk about just how football has changed, from you coming in as a second round pick many years ago. Like, you look at like the Ravens, they're the first team in NFL history with all black quarterback room. That's players and coaches. Looking at so many black quarterbacks in the league. If you count Kyler Murray, that's 13 black quarterbacks starting. You got guys in college that are looking great. You see Sanders there, Colorado, Caleb Williams, Penix from Washington, Jordan Travis, Florida State. I just want to know, what's your thoughts just on the growth of the black quarterback in the NFL today and in football period? Because it was a time that, it was like a taboo thing. Like, oh, you got a black quarterback, and of course, Doug Williams changed the game. But now today, it's like nearly half the league is black quarterbacks. So what's your thoughts just on the growth of that and you being a part of that growth?
Yeah, I mean, I love where they're at. And I think when you look back, and of course, the whole evolution of we know the history as it relates to black quarterbacks. And when you look at where we are now, nobody's looking at it to say, okay, you're the black quarterback, you can move around. This is like that doesn't fit the narrative anymore in that particular perspective, because they always wanted a pocket passer. And that's why I say, when you have quarterbacks, who was ahead of their era, a Cordell Stewart, essentially, if he played where he is now, you'd be like, man, this dude is a first round talent, no question about it. Even though he went second round out of Colorado, you look and be like, man, this, just imagine a 4-3 guy at this particular point. He would be that next generational guy. And that's why I love watching him. I was a big fan. I had an opportunity to play with him for a season. So these are things that you're kind of seeing, because to your point, you didn't see a lot of us when we were there. You did see, you had your Steve McNairs that were going. And then it was the manner of, when do you play them? Do you sit them? Do you play them right away? And then ultimately that narrative changed. And go back to 2001, Mike Vick, number one pick. They didn't want to play him. So it was almost like, you got to sit the rookie quarterback. And regardless, and I'll take it, 2 years later was Carson Palmer, number one pick. He didn't play his first year. So now the narratives have changed, because, the impact of what the position has brought, and then ultimately what these guys can do. And then it got to the point where size didn't matter anymore, because all of a sudden you draft Kyler Murray with the number one pick. So if you can play, they're going to find you. And I think it opens it up for a lot more people, because right now, general managers, head coaches, they're not looking at the position and looking at it as a color at the position. It's, can you play or not? And it took a while for us to get there. Now we're here, and now you're seeing people just playing and having success. So I just love the narrative, how it has changed over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Charlie, you're someone that is very close to the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. Obviously, you do pre and post game work for Steelers football. You're as close to the organization as anybody. And I feel like as we go around the league, and especially in the AFC, when we start talking about, we have what we have in Patrick Mahomes here. You know, Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. You know, Josh Allen's right there. You know, Lamar Jackson's won an MVP. You know, Aaron Rodgers is now in the conference. But I feel like Pittsburgh is a team that nobody's really talking about, especially there in the AFC North when you've got a Lamar Jackson, you got Deshaun Watson, and Joe Burrow. So as you look at the Steelers team and what they can be and what the ceiling is for them, I feel like they're a team not a lot of people are talking about. We know what Mike Tomlin's record is. We know how he gets the Steelers to the playoffs, except for last season, and always a winning season or right at it. So as you assess this Steelers team, where do they fit in this very crowded AFC where everybody wants a piece of the action? As we say on the show, everybody wants the chips.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at it, you talk about a loaded AFC, but you look at the division, probably one of the toughest divisions in football, because we expect a lot more from Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. And then everybody know you have Cincinnati, but Baltimore is Baltimore. So there are no games that you can essentially let get away. When you're playing those non-division games, you have to win them because you don't want to put that pressure at the end in December because the way that the schedule is loaded up. So I like where they're at. The Steelers, I love the depth that they added. General Manager Omar Khan did a really good job of really in the draft, but then also identifying the depth at each position. And he made it very competitive at each position, specifically the offensive line. That was a weakness. Last year, they didn't get tested as it relates to injuries and testing the depth. But now they are confident that they have 8, 9 deep at that offensive line position. This is very rare because every draft pick for the Steelers this year has made this roster. That was something that hasn't been done in years past. So I look at all of those things that it get you excited, but at the end of the day, it's going to start with Kenny Pickett and it ends with Kenny Pickett. I like, hey, he played last year. The second half really came about. Now he took the offseason, able to now review everything that he did, watch the game film, got better, and he got better the first moment of OTAs. I saw this when he walked into camp, and I'm like, wow, the game really looks like it's slowing down. Had a phenomenal training camp and then transitioned that on the field. Only missed 2 passes during the preseason, and everybody's looking around like, is this really what we're thinking? To me, it wasn't a surprise because I saw it develop from April all the way to the point that we are now. This is very similar to 2005, and I say this only because Ben Roethlisberger going from year one where he was undefeated until he lost that AFC Championship game against the Patriots. Going into that offseason, the game slowed down. And I'll tell you how much confidence that the Steelers had in him going into year 2. Not much. He threw 11 passes in his first game of the second season. So he was 9 for 11, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had a perfect passer rating. So that lets you know that in Pittsburgh, they're running the football because he had a guy by the name of Willie Parker behind him. Right now, Kenny Pickett is the same way. I don't know that they go out and throw 30 times a game. I think they're going to now establish that running game to create an identity. If they can do that, that opens up the passing game. Open up the play action game and allow now your receivers on the outside, because somebody who we haven't talked about was Pat Freiermuth. Great tight end, but we haven't heard about him because they haven't got that running game going. So I expect Najee Harris to get off to a really good start. You do now have a bowling ball with Jaylen Warren behind him, who we saw rip off a 62-yard run in the preseason. If they can get that play action game going, they're going to play more ball controlled offense on the offensive side and allow that defense to do what they do.
Yeah, Charlie, I want to go back to this Lions-Chiefs matchup, and we know what they present on the offensive side of the ball. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Jones Jr., they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. But I want to go to the defensive side of the ball, Aiden Hutchinson, and someone you know well at corner, Cam Sutton out there, who played with the Steelers, now a Lion. Talk about what they can present defensively to try and slow down the best quarterback in the game, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, Hutchinson, I mean, he can get after the quarterback, and that's what you need when you're playing Kansas City, because you can't afford to blitz. You need your rushers to get after the quarterback. So if he can do that and create some pressure, yeah, that's fine. But on the back end, really, when you talk about Cam Sutton, this is a guy who I've seen since his rookie year all the way through, one of the smartest players that I've ever seen and I've ever been around. And that's literally, you're talking about Hall of Famers that you've played with on this defense. Cam Sutton mentally is that particular person. That's why he was a high IQ guy, and he was highly sought after leaving Pittsburgh in free agency to go to Detroit. Well deserving of the contract. This is a guy who could play multiple positions, including the safety position. He will not miss assignments. He is very technical and that's what made him so special here in Pittsburgh. So they do have a gem in that particular piece. It's going to be interesting to see how they evolve him in that defense, because even though he's lining up as a nickel, he can now roll back into that safety position when you start to get in those third downs. So it's going to be interesting to watch. But again, this is why the first game is exciting, because nobody has tapes on each other. Everybody's trying to figure it out, and generally first quarter is slow, and then it kind of picks back up when you're starting to kind of dictate some of the things that you can do in that second and third quarter. So, but to your point, Cam Sutton is one heck of a player.
Absolutely. We have a comment here. It says, Batch looks like he can still play. What do you say?
Well, I appreciate it. I look mentally, I'm like, yes, I can. These knees are like, no way, no way. But I enjoy it. But honestly, I just changed my regimen up. When the pandemic happened, everybody was kind of sitting around. The gyms were shut down, and all I started doing was walking. And literally, we sit all day in meetings. I started walking a mile in the morning, a mile in the afternoon, evening hours. And then I started texting my boys. I'm like, hey, I did 2 miles today. And they're looking at me like, okay, cool. So I started challenging them. They would text back, hey, I did 2.2 today. So of course I got to do 2.5. So we started challenging ourselves. And now ultimately, my goal was 10 miles a week. Now I actually walk 25 to 30 miles a week. So my alarm's up at 6 o'clock. I'm out the door from 7 to 8:15, whatever miles I get in between that. Generally is about 4.5. So that's what I've done. And literally, Hokas are my best friends. Your feet and back will thank you if you put a pair of Hokas on. So that's generally kind of how I switch it up. And of course, the asterisk and all of this, they put me on TV, and I didn't want to sit there and that front button is popping out. So I had to do something to make sure that at least it was respectable when I was looked at on TV.
Everybody has different motivators. TV's yours.
Hey, Charlie, I was at I think your only start at Arrowhead Stadium back in 1999. And I bring that up because currently Chiefs fans, and I think Chiefs Kingdom worldwide, is upset because we get emotionally invested, emotionally involved when we see our stud defensive tackle, all-pro Chris Jones hold out. People even now with the game being 48 hours away, people even say he's being selfish. Charlie, you are in a situation where your Hall of Fame running back, Barry Sanders, retired as training camp began. How were you able to not just how are you able to keep your composure and be a professional without saying, you know what, Barry, you really put us into a bind because we expected you to be here? How are you able to separate that as a pro, Charlie?
Well, I think it's a little bit different on both. I mean, it's comparable, but it's a little different. Barry was at the end of his career and ultimately retiring and walking away and never coming back. In this particular case, you do know you have a teammate and a brother who's going to come back. But ultimately, my rule of thumb was always never count another man's pockets, because I wouldn't want him to do that with me. The business is the business. And when you look at fans, they're always quick to talk about and side with the owners, but at the end of the day, and I'm always like, well, the owners don't honor their contracts all the time. So when you do have an opportunity to get paid, players are rooting for that player to get paid, because if I was in that situation, I would want all of my brothers hoping and praying and wishing that I do get the deal that I want. That's ultimately going to take care of your family, because at the end of the day, you need the money to be able to move forward the rest of your life. I promise you, if you are struggling, you can't pick up the phone and there's a bill collector on the other side. But I have a Super Bowl ring. He gonna say, "Oh, good for you, but pay your damn bill." Those things that you have to be able to provide, and you love and you play the game for your brothers, the ultimate championship. You want to be a part of that. But at the end of the day, is to provide for your family, and you have to move forward, because this is the best temporary job in America that you have. We will be former a lot longer than active. So you have to be able to take care of yourself first, let the business handle it. And when he gets in, everybody's expecting you to be in shape. And once the business is taken care of, go out there and help your team win. So I am rooting for anybody in that situation.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Get your money, CJ. And once you come back, he's going to be ready to go. But, we just saw the show, Netflix, called The Quarterback. But one of the most underrated positions in, the NFL is the backup quarterback. And, you were able to win the Super Bowl, being a backup there for Ben Roethlisberger. The Chiefs are going from Chad Henne to now Blaine Gabbert. I just want to, you to talk to us about the importance of the backup quarterback to a team, because, sometimes you may have to come in and get some spot starts because of injuries or whatever, or sometimes you may not play. But I believe that role is very important, and that's why the Chiefs really focus on have a veteran guy there behind Patrick Mahomes. So I just want you to talk to us about, Charlie, about your role as being that backup quarterback and being a very good one.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you. The backup job is the best job in America until you have to play, because you get exposed. You get exposed. I mean, I'm not throwing no shade on anybody, but look at Peyton Manning, and you had backup Curtis Painter, who was there, and then Peyton gets hurt and he gets exposed. And that's just the nature of it. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but that's the nature of where it is. So nobody cares how much practice time that you have. You better go out there and perform. And if you can perform at a high level, everybody's like, okay, we can count on that guy if something was to happen. For me, I look at it and I say, I knew the narrative coming in. If we were to win the game, it was because you ran the ball and played good defense. If we lost the game, it's because I played bad and Ben Roethlisberger didn't play. That was going to be the news story the next day. And I never wanted to be that guy that didn't keep the train moving. So I wanted to do my part. And I started with every day in practice, getting your defense better, going out there, ultimately performing. So I think when you look at where Gabbert is at this particular point, he bounced around the league, and sometimes a change of scenery, it helps. But when you enter into that room, experience is number one, but also the rapport that you have in a quarterback room, because you want to make sure that everybody is all on the same page. Because if I'm the backup, and I'll take it to Ben Roethlisberger, things that I was saying, he had to trust me, that I was telling him for the betterment of him individually. And secondly, it was for the team. And you build those relationships there. So by the time you get to the sideline, you're saying things and you're going back and forth strategy wise. He knows, okay, you're telling me the truth, and he's going to go out there and perform at that level. And vice versa. If he was injured and I had to go into the game, I knew I had the full support of him doing the exact same thing to me. It's just one of those things to where that room, everybody has to all be on the same accord. There can't be nobody looking over their shoulder. Not to say that Patrick is looking over his shoulder. It's the fact that I know I have a guy who is essentially a second quarterback coach, a second offensive coordinator that I can bounce things off of, and I can see before the coaches can see, before they get to those pads and those surfaces on the actual sideline. I would have conversation with Ben as he's walking off the field before we went over to look at those pictures. And we already saw, when he saw that, he was like, okay, I get it. We're already 2 minutes ahead in conversations before we even get to the next drive. So it's very, very important that Gabbert has that respect from Patrick, which I'm sure happened as they would discuss who was going to be his backup, but making sure that he has the best interest for him. And I think that ultimately is going to happen.
Charlie, we've got a lot of comments in here about you, watching you play, people that enjoyed it, whether they're Chiefs fans or fans of other teams. But my buddy Adam Cole also asked about your shirt. Says Charlie's shirt is awesome. And I also want to bring up your website, charliebatch.com and batchfoundation.org. Does that shirt kind of tie in with your foundation here? And can people get it? Because man, that is pretty cool, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. So with our foundation, we've been around now for 23 years, and the name of the foundation is Best of the Batch Foundation. And what we do, we're an educational foundation, and we actually focus on STEAM programs and our after school programs. And what you see right there on the website, actually, literally, we went from 5,300 square feet to 33,000 square feet. And we just opened up. So we impact 3,800 kids annually in 9 counties throughout Southwestern Pennsylvania. And now our numbers are projected to be over 6,000 kids annually. So we're super excited about this and our project that we have. The kids don't want to leave. But to the point is, the shirt, we actually have our school drive. So we did our back to school drive. Instead of saying book bags, we say batch packs. So it's a play off my name. It's batch pack. So we filled with school supplies. We gave out teachers' bags. And today we actually delivered. TJ Watt came over to be a part of it today on his day off. And we actually were able to give out over 800 book bags filled with school supplies along with teachers' bags, which was about a $300 value, because teachers are actually digging into their own pockets to now have to take care of what they need to take care of in the classroom. So we're just trying to do our small part as a token of appreciation for what they're going to go throughout the school year. And this is something that we've been doing over the last 18 years with our back to school program. So we're excited about it. So if anybody wants to learn more about what we do throughout a calendar year, you can go to batchfoundation.org. And, you can see everything that we do. So I just thank everybody in advance for the support. And because we don't do it by ourselves, and I would be sitting here lying to you if I said that we did it by ourselves. We have great partners, great sponsors, great volunteers who actually believe in the mission and the vision of what we're trying to accomplish at the Batch Foundation.
Absolutely. We love it, Charlie. And we've got a question here from James T. Kirk. Ask Charlie what team he really identifies with, Detroit or Pittsburgh.
I mean, I think we know the answer to this, but we got
Actually, for me, I only know 2 cities, and that's rare playing 15 years in the NFL. So I went to Eastern Michigan, which was only 40 minutes down the road from where we practiced at with Detroit, and played 4 years with the Lions. So I was in Detroit 9.5 years, and I essentially grew up there. I went from 17 to 27. And then I ended up going back to Pittsburgh. And a lot of people people thought I was from Detroit, but I'm actually born and raised in Pittsburgh. So literally, will we practice out in Pittsburgh? I'm home to mom's house in 10 minutes. So that's how close I am. So it was good and bad to be home. Good part, I was home. The bad part was everybody wanted tickets. And during that window, we went to 3 Super Bowls and we won 2. So it was a very tough ticket to get. But ultimately, and I say this respectfully, because I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh and I was a Steeler fan, I gravitate to Pittsburgh because that's where I'm from. That doesn't mean how many years I played in the league. It's just the fact that that's where my heart is at because I'm born and raised here in Pittsburgh.
Well, Noah, we got to go back to you. You have a video for us for Charlie here?
Video package here. He leans to Pittsburgh, but I'm going back to Detroit.
Let's do it. I hope you have one of them good play action fakes in there. Let's do it.
I think we do because, Charlie, for this video package, I'm going to set it up here by asking about your toughness. You can answer on the other side because you are one of the toughest quarterbacks I've ever seen. That's one thing that endeared me to you, made you my favorite quarterback in the league during your time in the league. And that's why I have this jersey, and I followed the Lions along with the Herman Moores, Jermaine Crowells. I could list out the whole 2000 Lions roster, but I don't think we have time for that. So we're going to go to this video package. I'll get your thoughts on the other side. Look at Charlie Batch's toughness.
Anybody that's allergic to pain cannot win this award. Play hard, play tough, do whatever it takes to win, and, of course, do it the right way. Quarterbacks, well, they're going to have to do something really, really special to win this award.
And throws for the end zone. Touchdown. Penalty markers are down. Sloan made the catch, and Batch is laid out.
Charlie Batch took some hit. He had to hang in there, and he took a big hit. He had to open himself up, expose his chest to the defensive guy to be able to throw the football in the back of the end zone.
And Batch is on the turf again.
Well, he escaped trouble. He gets out of it, steps up, and took another big hit. It's a blitz. Charlie Batch steps up, gets rid of it. Oh, and the hit is late. Lawyer Malloy, number 36. Here he comes. He sees a quarterback step up.
And Batch, well, not too hurt to sit up and see what happened to the football that he threw. Batch, going to run it to the 5. Touchdown. He comes off of the field bent over, a hand on his shoulder or his chest. And we've decided who the all-iron player of the game is.
Charlie Batch. Greg, there's no question he epitomized everything you want to see in a football player. He played well. He played hard under pressure. He took some big hits, and he was the difference in the game.
Doing whatever it takes to win a game and toughness on the field. The All-Iron Award. Congratulations, Charlie. You certainly deserve it.
Thank you.
Right there, you see it. I mean, we've got Mitch Holtis here calling our games, and in the AFC Championship game, Mahomes is hobbling on his ankle, and he's like, what a gutsy performance. Grab a bucket of guts. And I thought of you when he said that. Grab a bucket of guts, Charlie. I love it.
No, I appreciate it. You over here making me the memories. I'm over here holding my back and my ribs. Like, man, I remember that like it was yesterday. But I tell you something cool about that moment, though. And late in that game, I don't know if you recall, but history was made because on the other sideline, there was some dude by the name of Tom Brady that threw his first pass in that game. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty cool to be part of that. But ultimately, I think when you look back, man, it just kind of the eras of where we played at. Those hits that you saw right there are all 15-yard personal foul penalties to this day. So back then, you used to be able to hit the quarterback as essentially 2 steps, and they would allow that to happen. So it was a totally different era that we played in, but you earn the respect, and hopefully people respected that as I kind of went through, and I just appreciate it. And those are moments that really I'll never forget. But it's funny because now I wear hair, and everybody's those highlights come on, they're like, "You were a ball head," and then they're like, "Wait a minute, who is that guy handing the ball off to Barry Sanders?"
Yeah.
When you see those type of those storylines, people forget. And I think ultimately, when I look back over my 15-year career, I had the opportunity to hand the ball off of 2 of the top 5 rushers in the National Football League at the time of retirement. Barry Sanders, Jerome Bettis. So not many people can say that. So at least I had the honor of being able to play with those guys and hand the football to Hall of Famers.
Yeah, in that game, you beat Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, although he's a rookie on the sideline behind Drew Bledsoe, 34-9 in Thanksgiving All-Ironman. It had only gone to linebackers previously, the previous 2 years. And just, I want to talk a little bit more about just you diving into the end zone on that third one there, because you took 2 major shots and down. It almost looked like they needed a chalk outline for you there, but you get up and what's going through your head to fight for your teammates, get back out there and dive into that end zone and expose your ribs again.
You're just you're living in the moment. And at that point, it was like, I'm not worried about or thinking about my ribs, because I would have never took off and ran. but to dive into that end zone, and I felt the pain, and to see my teammates over top of me, and we're sharing a moment in that particular point. I actually still have that picture hanging up in my basement here, which is a pretty cool moment, because again, playing on Thanksgiving, you wear that with a badge of honor because the whole country is watching that. And these are things and games that you kind of look forward to. And when you win some of those games, people remember it. And, we're talking about that New England game, but it was funny because I actually did an interview, because they're actually doing 25-year anniversary of the Steelers and the Lions and the Steelers playing 2 years prior to that, because that was actually part of history on that coin flip game.
Yes.
We want to ask about that too.
Yes. And that was the last time, because that was part of history. That was the last time that you were able to call the coin flip in the air. Back in 1998. So that was a historical moment during that time.
Yeah, Phil Luckett was like, you guys changed your answer once it was in the air.
And to this day, if Jerome Bettis is looking at this, and matter of fact, I'll send it to him.
I know he is.
Let us know. It's only been 25 years, JB. Did you say heads or tails? Which one was it? Come on, JB.
Oh, what a moment. Well, Charlie, before we let you go, the Steelers open with the San Francisco 49ers. What an opener it's going to be. A lot of expectations for the 49ers. That defense, we know what it is. We'll see what they get out of Brock Purdy. Can he kind of recreate the magic that he was able to lead the Niners to the AFC Championship game? The poor Niners had nobody that could throw a forward pass as the AFC Championship game wore on, the NFC Championship game wore on. So for Pittsburgh, we talked about last year, they were able to start the season with a win, upset the Cincinnati Bengals right in week 1. Another opportunity with one of the league's top teams here. So how does Pittsburgh get off to a 1-0 start here against these Niners?
Yeah, and this is the first game in a very long time that the Steelers actually open up at home. So everybody around Pittsburgh is excited about being near on week 1. But can they shock everybody? I mean, what better test do you have when you have a 49ers team who has represented the NFC at the top for years, and now all of a sudden here you have the Steelers, who not many people are thinking about. Some people jumped on the bandwagon since the preseason. But what is it going to look like? It's a true test. This run defense of the Steelers have not been tested throughout the preseason. We thought we were going to get that with the Falcons in the last preseason game because the manner they run the football, that didn't happen. When you look on the offensive side for the 49ers, yes, they have a lot of stars. What's going to happen with Kittle? What's going to happen with Brock Purdy? But also, Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. So they're going to be tested. But what better way to test that defense when you have 4 perennial Hall of Famers on this defensive side? And I say that Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's on his way. Pat Peterson is on his way. Cam knocking at the door. And, of course, TJ Watt is putting together a Hall of Fame career from that perspective. So these guys are going to be tested. But, again, at the end of the day, all eyes are on Kenny Pickett. If he can go out and deliver, he's going to shock everyone in week 1, and hopefully the Steelers are able to walk away victorious against the 49ers.
Well, Charlie, do you have anything to do with these holdouts? Because we see Nick Bosa holding out against your Steelers. He's not going to play. And then Chris Jones holding out against your Lions. He's not going to play. What's going on here, Charlie?
I have no idea. I'm just sitting back like, hey, it is what it is, but it made it tougher for these guys. The way that the whole collective bargaining agreement is, the leadership, they decided that it's okay to allow players to get fined when they're away from it. I would have never agreed to that. That's just me personally. But now these guys, you have to have a plan, because if you're going to sit out at $50,000 a day, you better have a plan. Yeah. And the plan is to get paid. If you're going to make this, you better go out there and get paid. Ain't no walking back in the door with your tail tucked between your legs. How about, I thought I had a plan, but it didn't work. And here I am now paying back half of your salary. So you get your money. Hopefully it all works out for them. And at the end of the day, man, I always want what's best for the players, because the players are the ones who are sacrificing their bodies on the field. They're the ones that are going to have to pay for it when they're done playing, whether that's through, anxiety, pain, inflammation, whatever that looks like. These players are going to suffer the rest of their life with something. I don't want it to be major, but it's going to be something. Hopefully these guys can go out and get paid.
Hey, so Charlie, we got to get your prediction, man. Who do you got Thursday night, the season opener? Chiefs, Lions, what's your prediction?
I think it's going to be tough. I mean, anytime playing in Arrowhead, and I used to always talk about, going down to Kansas City, and people used to always look. And I used to be mad when they switched the national anthem to inside the locker room versus out, because I used to love when the Chiefs fans said, when the national anthem played Chiefs, and that whole roar was around Arrowhead. It was like, first time I heard it, I jumped up like, what the heck was that? So, but I think, anytime you're coming off of it, but I think a caveat is going to be Kelce. I think if Kelce can play, that's going to be it. But if not, man, that's going to really take a lot out of those Chiefs. So until I know that, it's really hard to give a prediction. I know that's going to be led up to the 11th hour. I think if Kelce plays, I think the Chiefs win by 10. But if Kelce doesn't play, it's going to be one of those ones at the last minute. It's going to be a one-possession ball game. It can go either way. That's just my prediction.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. Charlie, thank you so much for your time. This has been just a blast. Just going down memory lane, talking about the current stuff. You are the best, man. I want to make sure everybody, again, we got the website scrolling up here, batchfoundation.org and charliebatch.com as well. So, and follow him on X, which I still can't get to calling it that, Twitter/X, and Instagram at charliebatch16. Charlie, you're the best, man. Thank you so much, sir.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I look forward to joining you all again.
You betcha.
We got to do it again. Always an honor. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
That was cool.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
He didn't hold back.
Charlie Batch, guys. Yes. Great starting the show off Arrowhead Allies with 2 guests. We went right into it. We're ready for football, and Arrowhead Allies is where you get it. That's where you get this. You're not going to find it anywhere else. Right now, you're watching whatever Chiefs show you're watching, and you're watching people talking about the ins and outs of Chris Jones. Is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign? Is Travis Kelce? We brought it right to you. We brought the experts right to you because, let's face it, we love to talk about it. We're all Chiefs fans, but we like to defer to the experts on a lot of these things, and that's where you get here at Arrowhead Allies more than anything.
Definitely. Way to go, man. Way to get those guys. Travis Kelce was late breaking news to get Aaron on here, who worked as a Chiefs trainer from 2013 to 2018 with his expertise, with his familiarity with the players. Then go straight to Charlie Batch. Good on you guys. This has been a great show.
No,
absolutely. You love the expertise from Aaron there. I just saw him tweeting and reached out to him, and he was gracious enough to come on with us and give his insight into the knee hyperextension and what he thinks. It sounds like Kelce's tough. He's going to try and give it a go. They're working around the clock, but it's probably safer to just let him sit out and get that 10-day rest after the Lions game.
Yeah, Aaron got me feeling a little better. When I first saw the injury, I was like, no, it's going to be what? How many weeks? But he got me feeling a little better about the injury. It's going to come down to how Kelce is feeling and what the team thinks. So we're going to find out with that soon. But we're the Chiefs. At this point, we're not playing to be 1-0, 2-0. We want to walk away with the Lombardi trophy. So, as long as we know that he's going to be back sooner than later, hey, this is a perfect moment for a guy like Noah Gray, who I expect to, have probably the best season of his career so far this year. And for those young receivers, 7 guys that's on the roster, this is the perfect game for them to step up. And Patrick Mahomes is actually undefeated without Travis Kelce, which is crazy. So
Charlie Batch should know all about it. For one, because one of them was against the Steelers in 2021.
Steelers coming out party.
They're 2-0 without him. Pat is 69% completion percentage, 271 yards passing, 3 TDs. So the Chiefs can do it. And this might be that perfect test. Let's see what all this Justin Ross hype is about. Let's see if
it's real.
Can have a big game.
He's probably not going to be active, but
he's active. Are you kidding me?
It could, Tony is
Shane,
back.
Is this going to be like a hard thing? Are we going to have to break this to Shane right now? No, is this that moment?
Right.
No. Like Justin Ross is not going to be active on Thursday night.
No, he's
active. Can't have 7 receivers active, I don't think. So
you can when you only got 2 tight ends.
Maybe for this 1 week, you could be right, but who's going to be sitting down?
Kadarius Toney's been limited all week. He hasn't been a full participant yet.
Snead and
so
Ricky James.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if I know the possibilities. You're saying Justin Ross is 7th. Andy Reid's never at 7. There's going to be somebody inactive. I think due to the circumstances, like I said, of Kadarius Toney being limited and Kelce more than likely not playing, I think 7 wide receivers will be on the field
Could
in
be.
some
There you go.
capacity.
You could be very right for this game. I just meant like moving forward throughout the season, who's going to be inactive if they have to take 1 or maybe even 2 receivers and make them inactive. I mean, they're talking about Richie James as the kick returner, punt returner guy. So it sounds like he's going to have a pretty important role that he's going to be active for. Obviously, Sky, MVS, Tony, assuming his health. They like Rashee Rice, the 2nd-round pick. They want to keep him active. So it's like Justin Watson and Justin Ross are going to be the guys that they're looking at to make an active.
Hey, but remember, there's no fullback. So that roster spot, you get an extra guy there that can play the wide receiver position. But it's going to be very interesting, man. I'm really excited for this game Thursday because, hopefully Kelce, if he plays, that means he's ready to go. It's safe for him to be out there. But if he doesn't, I'm really excited to see which one of these young pass catchers can step up and have that, breakout game. If Sky comes out and have a big game, Thursday night, this can be something that leads him on a run to where he can get to that 1,000 yards that me and Brian have been talking about. So I'm excited, baby. I can't wait.
Kadarius Toney will be on a snap count. I have no doubt about it. I mean, we can read between the lines. I know Andy Reid and Brett Veach and everybody's saying, oh, he's practicing. He looks like the same old Kadarius. Man, he had knee surgery late July. I just can't imagine him out there 80% of the snaps. I just don't see it. Will he be out there on some? Sure. But I just do not see Kadarius Toney out there being a full participant yet.
Running the football. That's going to be key too.
Well, running the football. And if Sky Moore is going to have his breakout season, it's going to be right here. It's going to start in week 1 against the Lions. I don't see it. Hey,
book it. Book it right now. Go to Vegas. Clint, go to Vegas.
Talking about booking things, we've got some things that you can book. Our predictions. And we're going to start off. Brian B. Shinan's not here, so I'm going to run through these real fast for him. Okay. We're sad that he couldn't be here, but Brian's got us 14-3 with losses to the Jets, at the Broncos, and then to the Bengals. The Bengals again. They get us again. Dang it.
Wow.
And then his division winners, of course, the Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Jags, wild card, Ravens, Jets, and Bills. I like it. I don't think I can disagree. NFC, Brian, we're going to have to talk about this when you get back. The Giants winning the division over the Eagles and the Cowboys. I don't see
He made a mistake, man. That's what that is. I forgive you, Brian. I know you made a mistake, man.
You typed in the wrong thing there. But he's also got the Lions, Saints, and Seahawks. Can't disagree with those. And then Eagles, Niners, Cowboys, wild card. Those are strong wild card teams. His players of the year, offensive player of the year, Justin Jefferson, defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons. Very good picks. Rookies of the year, offensive rookie. It looks like he has Bryce Young leading the Panthers. Although they don't make the playoffs, but I guess he's saying he puts up good numbers. And then defensive rookie of the year, Joey Porter Jr., defensive back for the Steelers. That was probably another good pick for them. They're very good at drafting. If they can just find that quarterback, they can get everything figured out. And of course, if the Giants are winning the division, this makes me think it wasn't a mistake. He's got Brian Daboll, coach of the year. Patty Mahomes is MVP in a rematch. Chiefs Niners Super Bowl 58 in Vegas.
Wow.
He'll be there on hand. So hopefully it's a better game than last time. I mean, it was an exciting end, but 20-10 for a large chunk of that had me like sitting like a log on the couch.
Yeah, that was scary. But I like his it looks like we got similar picks for the AFC, but his NFC.
Do we? Let's see it, Mike.
Let's go to it.
Yeah. So I got the Chiefs 13-4. I think the Jets is going to be a tough one early. The Jets going to be fired up. I got the Broncos finally beating the Chiefs on the road. I think Sean Payton is going to be, have his guys ready to go. The Dolphins, I think that if it was an Arrowhead, the Chiefs would have smacked them up. But because it's not in America, that the Dolphins are going to find a way to squeak by and upset the Chiefs, just for the Chiefs to smack them in the playoffs. And the Chargers, Week 18, the Chiefs are going to be set in their seeding to where they're going to be like, all right, looks like we're going to, have the most wins, so we can kind of sit some guys this game. So my division winners, I got the Chiefs, of course. I got the Ravens. I really think that Lamar has some weapons on the outside to go with the running game that I think that they are going to ball out and look really well. I got the Dolphins, like Brian. I think that Tyreek is such a special player. Jalen Waddle, Their defense is going to be better. I think they're going to take that division. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, like they have a chance to be the new Colts, like kind of what Peyton Manning was when he was there in that division where you knew what was going to happen. I think it's them. And then the Bengals, Bills, and Jets are going to make it. No Chargers, even though I think that they're going to be tough, but it's just so
Your
many.
credentials were just revoked. I'm sorry, Michael.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I might have to kind of cut this off and send this to him and say, yeah, I picked the Chargers to win the Super Bowl, but they, messed it up. But the NFC, I got the Niners. I just think that defense, once Bosa gets back, is going to be ready to go. They're well coached. The Eagles are going to do it again. Hurts is amazing. I got the Packers. I really think that team is stacked around Jordan Love. And if he can just be, say, a Jimmy Garoppolo type of guy, that team can win a lot of games, especially in that division where we're talking about the Lions possibly winning. I can't believe that. But I got the Packers. And then, the Falcons are a team, I think, that has pieces as well, especially offensively, that in that division that it's really a coin toss. I flipped the coin 4 different times, and the Falcons became my winner. Then I got the Cowboys. I got the Seahawks. And I think the Vikings, man, Kirk Cousins is a lot like Alex Smith. You don't expect him to win the Super Bowl, but he finds a way to win games and get into the playoffs. Offensive Player of the Year, Tyreek Hill. I think this year he's going to really show that he is that guy at the wide receiver position, and he's going
to he played somewhere before the Dolphins. I can't remember, but oh well.
Yeah, hey, he should still be there, but business is business. Chris Jones, we need you back soon. Then Sauce Gardner, Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's going to have an amazing year. We're just talking so much about the Jets that I think that with no Bosa, no CJ playing, that it's not going to be a pass rusher. It's going to be a DB, and Sauce Gardner is the best one out there. I got Bijan as my Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's why I have the Falcons in the playoffs. I think Anderson there with the Texans is going to, be able to get some good pass rush, some good sack numbers, that he's going to be able to get that title for Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. Then you have Matt LaFleur. I think that he's going to surprise a lot of people. People aren't talking about Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers isn't there. If he can get this team into the playoffs, especially winning the division, he is going to win that award. And then my upset special at MVP, I wanted to pick Pat, but you know how it is. Once you're that good, they're going to find ways not to give it to you, just like they didn't give it to him a couple years back. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to ball out. Duval County should show me a lot of love because of this. I think they're going to play like 12 games, and they're going to be very tough. And that's why I think the Chiefs facing the AFC Championship game, Chiefs, Jacksonville, and it's going to be amazing. But the Chiefs-Niners, I got the rematch because I think that, I trust Purdy that he's going to be Jimmy G enough to get them to another Super Bowl, and what's going to happen in the Super Bowl.
Michael, what's going on? It looks like are you moving to Florida?
No, I
just Dolphins love, and you're killing the Chargers here. I think he's moving to Florida.
I just think that it's somebody's calling. That's somebody from Florida calling right now.
Exactly. That's your realtor in Florida.
But no, I just really trust the Dolphins. I think I don't know why people are sleeping on Tua. Like, if it wasn't for him, getting the concussions, I think that they would have been a team that would have possibly tried to get to the AFC Championship game. They nearly beat the Bills with Skylar Thompson at quarterback.
Yeah.
And then Jacksonville, who else? Nobody else in that division can win. I don't trust the Titans.
No, for sure not. No.
We can put together a team that can beat the Texans, guys.
True.
And then, the Colts, I like Anthony Richardson, but it's not going to be enough, especially with Jonathan Taylor trying to get out of there. So that's why I like Florida. So, and it's a beautiful state.
Yeah,
Noah, we're going to head to you to get yours going here.
All right.
Rolling.
Yes, I've got the Chiefs 13-4 losses to those stinky Jets. Of course, I've got Tyreek going scorched earth on the Chiefs. Clint was on the phone with me saying I've been wanting it. I've been lauding it.
It's weird.
And I'm going to get it. All right. And we've got the Bengals, and then they're not going to, like Michael, they're not going to need the game against the Chargers at the end of the season. They're going to have the 1 seed wrapped up. So Blaine Gabbert loses that one for us. Winners of the divisions in the AFC, Chiefs, Ravens, Jags, and I'm all on the Jets. They've got a strong defense, and all they needed was a quarterback, and now they've got a Hall of Famer on their side. So wild card, Bengals make the wild card because I think that the Ravens They've got enough on offense to push through, and the Ravens always give the Bengals a tough time. Bills and Chargers make the wild card. NFC, I've got the Seahawks taking it. I love me some DK Metcalf, as you're going to see later on. Lions, Saints, Cowboys find a way to get it done with new offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. Wild card teams, Eagles, Niners, Vikings. And my offensive player of the year, DK Metcalf, and that's what leads the Seahawks to winning the NFC West. Defensive player of the year, same as Brian's, Micah Parsons. Rookies of the year, I went a little AWOL here. Went off the board, but I went Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions. That's why I think they're going to win their division in the NFC North. And then Nolan Smith for the Eagles. He's not going to be tasked to do it all. They've got other people there, so he's going to be able to roam free, make plays. Dan Campbell and the Lions have a good season. They win it, the NFC North, so he takes head coach of the year. And then Patrick Mahomes, MVP, and Chiefs face Brian Schottenheimer and the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
That would be the greatest Super Bowl. That, you know, like Chiefs
Not for
fans,
tickets, but
Chiefs fans and Cowboy fans. Oh my gosh, I know Twitter will X will probably explode on everybody's phone. But let's hear it, Shane.
I got the Chiefs going 12-5, losses to Jacksonville, Minnesota, at Denver, the Patriots, and at the Chargers. The Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Titans will win their divisions. The wild cards will be the Bengals, Dolphins, and the Chargers. The 49ers in the NFC West, the Eagles in the NFC East, the Vikings in the North, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the South. The wild card will be the Giants, Lions, and Washington.
Eric Bieniemy love.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert will be the Offensive Player of the Year. Nick Bosa will be the Defensive Player of the Year. Quentin Lawrence
Johnson.
Quentin Johnston will be the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Jalen Slater.
Carter,
damn it.
Jalen Carter
will be the defense. Campbell will be the Coach of the Year. Patrick Mahomes will be the MVP, and it'll be the Chiefs.
Wow.
And the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl. Get ready for a sneak peek in 48 hours when 78,000 fans witness. Chiefs, Lions won.
The Detroit Lions, with one playoff win in its team history, makes it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Shane did that for the show, man. I check like it, Shane.
I respect it.
You guys are all sleeping on the Buffalo Bills here, and you guys all love the Dolphins. You love the Jets. I'm out on both. I'm a Buffalo Bills Mafia guy. You guys forget about Josh Allen. You forget about Stephon Diggs. You forget Von Miller will be healthy maybe at some point. Anyway, Chiefs lose to the Bills and Bengals because, well, they always lose to the Bills and Bengals in the regular season. And just like everybody, man, we're just giving up. We're saying we're going to lose to the Denver Broncos this year. I guess we're just saying that we are due for that to happen. I got a Chargers loss in there. That's rare for Andy Reid to lose 2 division games, but I think that's what happens. And the reason I have the Vikings on here is because it's the last team that Patrick Mahomes has not beaten. I say we have to wait 4 more years for it, or, well, we could see him again as the divisions shake out when we play the NFC North, the rotational thing again. Nothing off the cuff here. I guess I'm the only person that realizes, the Buffalo Bills have been on the cusp of being a Super Bowl team for the past, 3 seasons. Nobody remembers that. We got Chiefs, Ravens, the Jaguars. Aside from that, nothing too crazy here, guys. We've all seen kind of very similar picks in a lot of these, but Bengals, Jets, Chargers as your wild card. So, not going too crazy. San Francisco, Philadelphia, Minnesota Vikings repeat as NFC North champions. I'm not ready to believe in the Lions yet, but I do have them as a wild card team along with the Seahawks and Cowboys. I got Anthony Richardson as my AFC Rookie of the Year. Somebody that he's been named team captain. He's going to be there from the beginning. If he puts up numbers, if he does anything to elevate the Colts, I think he could really get that. And what do I got? Will Anderson there. Just a guy we all like. Probably will go to somebody else, but it's just easy to look at the draft from 2023 and say, oh, well, Will Anderson. How about Allen from the Saints as your Coach of the Year?
Wow.
I'm going to go there. Jalen Hurts repeats as does not repeat, as the NFL MVP. And the Chiefs rematch with the Eagles in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I did have the graphic here for my offensive defensive players of the year. Don't see it up here anymore, but I believe I had Micah Parsons as my defensive player of the year. And I think I had Josh Allen as my offensive player of the year. So
in on the Bills.
Oh, you guys, I don't know where you guys must have been watching different team last year than in the Miami Dolphins. And I do think that they were close in a lot of regards, but this is not a team ready to take over the AFC East. I'm sorry. It's not happening. The
That's
Buffalo
the
Bills.
Jets, Jets.
Yeah. Yell that too. What are we getting out of that? The Aaron Rodgers from 2022 or the MVP Aaron Rodgers from 2020 and 2021? That's kind of my question mark there. And, you don't necessarily just transport a 40-year-old quarterback onto a new team and become a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think I think they're a first-round exit in the playoffs. I just think they win the AFC East. And
so the Bills are that era's over.
They're still going to be. I got them in the playoffs. I just think the Dolphins might squeak out that division. I picked 3 teams to go in that division. I think they're going to beat each other up, but I think the Dolphins are going to be. They're going to be on top. We don't know what Von Miller is going to look like. They can never run the ball. They were hoping to get Cook, but he chose elsewhere. So I think that got
rid of Leslie Frazier as defensive coordinator, and now the coach is going to call it, and that never goes well. Romeo Crennel tried that, and anyway.
Didn't they lose a safety? Didn't they lose a starting safety, I believe, as well? So
but guys, 2 words for everybody. Damar Hamlin. I told Noah the day after Damar Hamlin went down that he would be back playing. Comeback player of the year. Put that on my graphic all day.
Yes.
Bills, guys, do it for Damar.
There's been a lot of finger pointing in Buffalo, with Diggs and
they haven't.
I think it's about to crack. It's either going to make or break. It could happen. But I just think with all the finger pointing, it kind of, I don't know why their head coach got an extension. I think he should have played his last year as his head coach. I mean, we'll see. I mean, they have to deliver. I mean, if Buffalo's still never won a Super Bowl in their franchise history.
I mean, that's just how it works out for them. They've been to 4 in a row.
Are you still going to be laughing when I put up this graphic, Shane? Chris Jones not being there at this point is very surprising.
Thanks, pal.
$27.25 million or 2 years, $54.5 million. The Chiefs have offered. Chris says, not so fast. I want $64 million over 2 years, $32 million a year. And that is 300,000 over what our good buddy Aaron Donald makes. So
let's get to the point. Let's just do this right now, because I know we've been hinting at it behind the scenes. Let's get to the point where you guys were in Miami in April.
Were we? Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we were. Oh.
And you sent me a text and you said, "Hey, Shaggy, Byron Pringle just walked in." And I said, "Tell Byron Pringle that Shaggy Shane says hi," and I'll let you two take it from there.
That's where it started going downhill. No, we told Byron Pringle, our guy Shaggy Shane says hello, and his eyes lit up. Byron Pringle is one of the most friendly people you'll ever meet. Had a great conversation. In fact, that picture was taken in what was a lavish party there at the Fountain Blue, one of the nicest resorts really in the country there on South Beach. And but we also were able to meet and do a candid in-person interview with Chris Jones there as well. And get the common denominator here, guys, the Katz brothers, Michael and Jason Katz, the agents of both Byron Pringle and Chris Jones. And I think, as you said, Jody Fortson, were on hand, Noah. And one of the most strange things that's ever happened to us took place there.
Yeah, unfortunately, very soon after that picture, as you see us with Byron Pringle there in the middle, Jason Katz comes kind of scurrying back over to us after I thought they had already been long gone, just gone up the stairs. They said they were leaving. They took the picture. Clint and I are just kind of looking at his phone, scrolling through which is the best one. He took 3 or 4, and he comes over to us and he said, "Oh, hey guys, don't put that picture on your show. You just can't put that picture on your show."
I don't know what that means. First of all,
I'm just wait, what?
Post it on my Facebook page, a Twitter,
he's not on my show sling or anything. He's not in a walking boot. Does he not want teams that are out there looking at Byron Pringle wait, he's having fun at Fountain Blue instead of on a field catching balls from some high school quarterback right now? I'm not signing him. That's over. So I didn't get what that was about. It was very overbearing and just paranoid almost out of Jason Katz. Just don't post that. I can't
But during your conversation with Byron Pringle, he kept interrupting you guys. He kept answering.
Yeah, we were asking about
when you were talking to Byron Pringle.
how his free agency was going, and Byron started answering. It was just kind of, we just asked general. We didn't say like, what's the offer on the table? I got to know who are the teams involved. Just like, hey, how's free agency going? What are you hearing? And then his agent, Byron, started to answer. His agent like cut him off, put his hand up over to us. And he's like, I'm kind of taking this over. And he's just, we're talking with a few teams. They're very interested, and we're just mulling over some offers. And it's just like Byron can't answer just a very general question. I'm pretty sure he knows how to do it. And just, again, very overbearing, very paranoid, has to be in control of everything that's coming out, and doesn't let his clients speak for themselves in any form or fashion. So it's just very strange dealing with Jason Katz.
The other strange part was we talked to Chris Jones, candidly, now whole other side story. We lost the audio. There was no audio of the interview, so it never happened. And Noah and I are still haunted by it to this day. We've actually gone through scenarios where we would give up a Chiefs Super Bowl win just to have that audio back, because the interview was so amazing. And there was no restrictions on that interview where Chris Jones talked about laying the smackdown on Tyreek Hill. He's not coming into Arrowhead and winning. That's when we thought the game was going to be in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. He sat there and said he was recruiting DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City. He was going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and here's how he's going to do it. And there was no Cat brothers interference there, but then you get out to the party afterwards.
We're in the back of the room listening.
Oh, yeah, we were back here. So the point being, guys, the Katz brothers, it's been speculated. You think about Nicky Santoro, from the movie Casino. That's what these guys kind of remind me of. And that's probably stereotyping in some way, but they are sports agents. They are trying to get the best deal. They're shaking people down. They're shaking the Chiefs down. So I'm sorry, I can't make any other comparison right now.
It's their really only top client. Their
he's the big fish.
T.Y. Hilton, right? Or something like.
He's the big fish, and for everybody, me being in LA, and we like to throw that comparison, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones out. I don't think that what Aaron Donald has done for the Rams. What is he? 9-time Pro Bowler, 7 times All-Pro. He brought them a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford at quarterback, really being the focal point of that team. I think that is much different than, Chris Jones, because you have Patrick Mahomes. And the first Super Bowl around, Chris Jones wasn't Aaron Donald that year. Last year, he had a really great year because he's a great player and finally got his first sack. He was much needed in the Bengals win. But I just think that he should understand, like, man, if you do this, it's going to mess with this roster to where you're trying to get $31.7 million. First of all, you're not in LA, you're in Kansas City, so trying to get the right deal for this team that can win. You look at the Rams, look at LA. Right now, we're talking about rebuilding, here in LA with the Rams. So
that's because that contract for Aaron Donald was an outlier. We shouldn't even look at it. It should never happen again. It cripples the Rams. It would cripple anybody else. We're not even considering that, and yet somehow that's gotten us to where we are today, Michael. Like you're saying, that's a good point.
And Aaron Donald pretty much got the Kobe deal. Kobe was late in his career. You did all this for us. We're going to pay you what we probably shouldn't, but we have love for you. It's the same thing they did with Aaron Donald, where, Chris Jones is like, you're still a player that's trying to be a bigger name than Aaron Donald, but it's going to take 5 more Pro Bowls and, 4 more All-Pros. So I think that, them, it's their big fish. So they're like, hey, we want to try to shake them down. This is the biggest story that they will ever have, possibly in their career, so they're trying to take advantage of it as long as possible. So it's the only time we mentioned it. I had no idea who his agents were until this shakedown right now. And I think that they like that. And they're like, hey, people know who we are now. Hopefully this gets us more clients after.
Yeah,
I hope it would get them less.
32 a year. It might get them more if this holdout works, but I don't think it's going to. I think there's going to have to be some sort of compromise, or this is going to end very ugly, and Chris is just going to show up week 8, and there's going to be contention, and we don't want that. But I think Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes need to take this in their own hands. For Travis Kelce, quite literally here, as he strangles Chris Jones, saying, "Sign the contract that Brett Veach has on the table." And Mahomes egging him on. Do it, Kelce. Do it, Kelce. Where have we heard that before? 13 seconds.
That looks good, dude. That looks good. I hope it happens. Like I said last week, and what I've been saying on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it.
Twitter X.
Neil Smith agreed to his extension 48 hours before the 1993 season began. There wasn't X. There wasn't social media. There wasn't agents keeping Noah and Clint out of talking to their client. So Neil Smith signed. And I remember listening to sports talk radio all week that leading up to the Chiefs-Buccaneers game, because it was the first game that Joe Montana was the starting quarterback. There was serious talk that Neil Smith wasn't going to sign his extension and hold out. But lo and behold, 48 hours before kickoff, Neil Smith signed, and he played in a limited role. He was extremely winded afterwards, but it was surprisingly taken care of 48 hours before kickoff. We got 10 minutes until we get to that 48 hours. Unless something happens, it looks like Chris Jones has taken some bad advice from a couple of inexperienced agents who don't have any other clients bigger than Chris Jones himself. So
I think that's where we're at, Shane.
Yeah,
I do, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, and I just want to take a look at one thing before we get to our predictions and then out. The show's at an hour and 20 minutes. Love it with the guests and stuff. And this is just the last thing. The 2018 Chiefs defense versus 2023. We're not going to have Chris Jones for the foreseeable future, it looks like. And I would say this defense, even without Chris Jones, is better than when we had Chris Jones in 2018, because you also had Orlando Scandrick and
Ron Parker, Eric Murray, Steven Nelson, Kendall Fuller.
Yeah, from top to bottom, like, it's a big difference, like much better.
We still almost won a Super Bowl if D4 just stays on side.
Yeah, so if with Karlaftis and Dana off the edge, I think they're going to give you something. We didn't, Felix is still there. Yep. He's going to be a piece to help. Our linebackers are way better than back then. Anthony Hitchens, Reggie Ragland, come on. Like, the linebackers look way better. Shout out to Kendall Fuller, but clearly he was a much better third safety for the Chiefs. And we have McDuffie, Legarius, and, Williams and Watson, two guys. Like, I don't know why there's any panic in Chiefs Kingdom at all that Chris Jones isn't going to be here, because it's not like we're bringing out a defense that's just terrible. Like, the Chiefs actually have great pieces, that can play. And, of course, Chris Jones just takes them to another level. That's why some people were saying maybe can they be a top 10 defense with Chris Jones? So without him, as long as they're between 20 and, 10, maybe 17, 16, with Patrick Mahomes, that's a hell of a defense. So the Chiefs are going to be all right. I think that we can't panic. That's why I think Veach is kind of like, hey, we're about to go out here and win some games. So are you guys sure that you want this guy to be sitting out? Because if we go 5-1, 6-1, and he still was assigned, it's no way in hell I'm going to be paying $31.7 million.
Very good point there.
I like the Chiefs this Thursday night, 38-27.
Ooh,
right to it,
man. 31-27, Shane. That's what I was thinking in my head, and you stole my 27. But hey, great minds think alike. Although I have us with one less touchdown because no Travis Kelce.
Oh man,
what do you got, Clint?
I think this one's going to come down to it, and I'm going to go 31-27. Chiefs kind of go ahead late and maybe have to make a defensive stop on the other side, a la, get last season against the Raiders, where the Raiders had a chance with the ball late and the Chiefs were able to stop, or like the Chargers game where they come down and cut it to 3 and they get the ball back with limited time left, and there's just not much they can do. I think that's going to be it. I think that the phrase we're going to use for the Detroit Lions after Thursday is not quite ready for prime time. Although for you, Shane, that probably won't apply because they're in your Super Bowl. So maybe they will get ready for prime time as the season goes on. Hopefully it's not at our expense on Thursday Night Football, but I'm ready for it. There is something surrounding this, guys. There is an air of negativity, for lack of a better term, when you think about raising a banner, Arrowhead Stadium, the season is starting, all eyes are on you, like Charlie Batch said, and yet we're thinking about Travis Kelce, you're thinking about Chris Jones, and thinking about what the future of this team is going to be, trying to get off to a hot start. Mahomes has never lost a week 1 game. He's 5-0. He averages 4 touchdowns a game during those times. So there's an air of negativity. How do you get past that, Michael?
Because of 2 guys that I'm going to mention.
I don't know who they are.
Is Patrick Mahomes.
Nope.
Because he's going to be ready to go. He's kind of like, hey, I don't want to talk about this Chris Jones stuff. Let me go out here and light it up. So he's going to be ready to go. Then Andy Reid. Andy Reid always pulls out something out of nowhere.
Unless it was 2014 against the Titans.
Yeah, so Andy is going to pull out a play or something that we're going to be like, what the hell is going on? And I think that's going to be enough. And I think that I'm sorry to break the 27s. Shout out to the Dodgers. They just celebrated the life of the late, great Kobe Bryant. So I'm going to go 24 points for the Detroit Lions and 30 for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that this is going to be the game that's going to have people shutting up about their wide receiver play in depth. They're going to be like, wait, they have enough. They were able to do it without Travis Kelce, and Noah Gray is going to make some plays. The running backs are going to make some plays. This game is going to have people like, oh, shucks, the Chiefs are still amazing, and they just did it in front of the world with no Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. We are in trouble, NFL. Let's get ready for another long year. So that's what it's going to be, baby.
And real quickly before I get out of here and we all say goodnight, thanks to Kevin Capel, John Harrison, and Tom Hood, everybody in the comments. What they said, and I think's key, is Jerick McKinnon. I think I want to echo what John Harrison and Kevin Capel said. McKinnon is key. He's not going to be the guy that's going to ground game, but he's freaking always catching touchdowns. He caught more than Justin Harrison last year. So I think McKinnon will pick up the slack left from Travis Kelce. But until next Tuesday right here when we're breaking down the Chiefs' first game, I will miss you guys on Arrowhead kickoff because I'll be at Arrowhead myself. We will break it down next Tuesday. Until then, thank you once again to our amazing guests. This is Shaggy Shane along with Michael, Noah, and Clint. We tell no lies on the Arrowhead Allies, baby. Until next week, go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.